Hey, Rainmaker podcast, Greg Mack. How's MadLab Nation doing? Hope you guys had a great weekend and are looking forward to a dynamic, successful week of moving a little closer to your business and personal goals. I want to talk a little bit about buyer's remorse in this podcast. And it certainly is a bummer, right? When you spend a bunch of time on the phone or via email and figure out what somebody's interests are, and you get them in for a face-to-face consultation, spend a half hour, 40 minutes, an hour, maybe more, talking to them, exploring, interviewing what's going on. And at the end, it seems like it's a great fit or match. You agree that they'd be a great customer and client, and they agree that what you do fits their needs. Everybody's all set. They pay you some money, and you leave and you schedule the initial assessment or whatever your intake looks like. And the next day you get a text or an email or a voicemail that says, "Hey, it was great meeting you. Sorry, I've got to cancel. Can you please give me a refund?" And all the wind comes out of your sails, right? It's a bummer. What happened here? What is buyer's remorse? And we use transactional analysis as the backdrop, one of the backdrops, in addition to neurocognitive sciences and Albert Mehrabian's work in human communication and how meaning is betrayed and feelings are betrayed through verbal and words and vocal tone, and some cool science there. And in transactional analysis, they've identified 3 ego states that constitute the entire identity ego state of us as individuals in their model. And it's the parent, adult, and child. For those of you who are familiar with TA, for those of you who are not, the parent ego state is the nurturing and protective parent ego or ego state in the system of identity. The adult is the kind of the logician, the non-prejudiced analyzer and data collector and scientist, if you will. And then the child ego state is made up of the rebellious child that rejects parental instruction, the natural child who's just all about fun and play and natural selfishness, if you will, and then the adaptive child, which is somebody who's bending to someone else's, primarily the parents' rules and injunctions. And so that's an integrated model in TA. And what TA theorists bring to the discussion and the conclusion about what happens in buyer's remorse is all 3 ego states did not present what they need and what they want and approve, permit, and authorize the final decision. And so something's missed, obviously, in buyer's remorse. And it means that they probably made the decision still in a primarily emotional state. And when someone makes a decision only based on their emotions, when they leave that decision and start thinking about it logically, or maybe somebody in their life ask them questions that make them think rationally and logically about the decision, and maybe bring up points they didn't think about or weren't asked about in the interview consultation, and then suddenly they realize, oh shoot, I probably shouldn't have made that decision. And that's when you get the buyer's remorse call. And so it really is important when you wrap up a consultation process that you're talking to and understand that the emotional reasons for making the decision and the authorization and approval from the other ego states occurs, or you've left the door open for buyer's remorse. And so what do we got to do? When we wrap up a consultation interview, we've got to make sure that we're talking, or at least invite the adult, the logical, analytical aspect of this identity, this ego identity in front of us, all kinds of information processing based questions to ensure that they now do the analysis and the rational part of the decision process right now in front of you. So if there is a problem, you can find out about it now and deal with it, versus getting the old voicemail text, email, canceling your order. And so how do you do this? Well, you got to ask technical questions. You got to feedback technical information, factual-based information, how much it's going to cost, what the time commitment is, any paperwork and what they have to do and read and understand that. So this is the key to at least inviting and try and increase the probability that you aren't making the final decision simply based on emotion, which is what con people do, right? Con men and women and grifters and people like that. They appeal only to emotion, and it's called hooking the child or the parent's ego state. And that often leads to buyer's remorse, which is not cool, right? And this is one of the things that consumers are sick of, right? Being sold on their emotion only and the chance to think about it logically. And so I really think the only ethical sale, if you will, is a fully integrated emotional and logical process for making the final decision to minimize buyer's remorse. So that's my advice, at least for today. And hopefully when you get near the end of a sales transaction, a consultation interview, don't just be so excited that here they gave you some money and they said yes and you think you got it. Take a few extra minutes to feedback critical detail, data points, stuff that they have to think about rationally, the consequences of making this decision, so that their adult maybe pops up and says, oh, yeah, okay, combined with my emotional needs and my physical needs, I understand intellectually what this decision means now and in the future. I'm still okay with it. And that way, you just might cut back seriously the amount of buyer's remorse you get. So keep going. Got to talk to strangers, right?